Welcome to Smooth Brain Radio, the talk show where we iron out the wrinkles of your brain, one topic at a time.
Hey-o! It's a smooth brain moment. What's up, everybody?
Oh my God.
I don't know. I've been thinking about that one all week long. Like, how do I open it this time? I keep doing the same thing. I was like, screw it. I'm going to do the same thing. Is that the definition of insanity? I don't know. Maybe.
Only if you expect the results to be different.
Right. Oh, now I gotta expect them to be the same. So, anyway,
okay.
Today's topic is going to be conspiracies. Are these unique views on things, or are they just fucking crazy people? You know what I'm saying? So,
are they out of their damn mind?
Yeah, Lothens and I are straight up theorists, I guess, if you will. So that is our topic today, and I kind of had an idea of doing past, present, future scenario. I tossed it to Lothens last second there, and I don't know if I want to stick with that or not. So the reason I wanted to do past, present, future is, what has been, and to take a quote from Kamala Harris there, what has been can be whatever for today, can be, whatever. I don't know her quotes, but it's really ridiculous. And
how are you going to quote somebody and they'd be like, I don't know the quote. Never mind.
Well, it's like garbled around in my head, and I'm just not. Yeah. Anyways, the reason I bring her into the subject matter, pure and simple, is politics, right? Because that's where the largest amount of conspiracies come from, is politics. You got some on the average side of things, the average being work conspiracies, the place that you may work at, shit like that. Any kind of talking behind the back or guessing what's going on. We're not talking about those kinds of conspiracies. We're talking at the grand scale, like what 9/11 type things.
Pizza party again. They're hiding something from us.
Yeah, Pizzagate, all that shit. So it is it crazy people that come up with this shit? Like, are these people that you think of? What was that one movie? I think Robin Williams played the conspiracy guy that was just like locked in his room. And I could be thinking of the wrong thing, but dude was spot on. There's another one that was with Will Smith, Eagle Eye, I think is what it was called, or something like that, or the satellites were tracking him all the time. Those are movies, but they're based on, potential conspiracies, and
yeah,
can they be intertwined with entertainment? Good.
My favorite conspiracy movie was with, oh my God, I did the same thing. I don't remember.
Welcome to the club.
My God.
See,
what
this
am I, 90
so,
years old?
No, but here, for everybody, right away, this is freestyle. Neither one of us prepared for this, because it's like, oh, conspiracies. Yeah, we're theorists. We can talk about this.
We got it.
For
We
all
got
day
it. Yeah.
long.
No problem.
So,
and we can, but we're going to miss the details, right? We're going to, brain flubber and all that. And it's going to be a mess, but hopefully it'll be a fun mess that you guys will enjoy listening to. It was the movie where the actor lived his life, but he was like a TV show. And he didn't know it. Everybody else was an actor in this town that he lived in, except for
Truman
him.
Show?
He was like the subject. Yeah, the Truman Show, yeah.
Okay.
That was my favorite conspiracy movie, because that is a conspiracy by definition. Yes. One or multiple people having a secret agenda targeted towards somebody else, Yep. So I was thinking about this a lot, though, where, what is a conspiracy theory? Is it just crazy people? Is it, are they actually happening? And we're just like, the crazy person over here in the corner is the sane one and everybody else is just kind of blind to it. But I think conspiracy theory, the term itself, got a bad rap because of a very unfortunate mental illness where people believe that things are going on around them that aren't real, and anybody else can see that it's not actually happening that way, right? Like you're in the mental institution. Yeah, paranoid schizophrenia.
Yeah.
And so they're in this enclosed area, whether it be their home or the mental ward or whatever back in the day, and it's clear to any outside observer that these things are not happening. Like, this is just a figment of this person's imagination, 100%. There's no question about it. And I think that sort of gets lumped into conspiracy theory terminology. You know, that view of a person. So when you start talking about things to someone who isn't aware of them going on, they're like, that can't be happening. That's not possible. That's not the way the world works. I haven't seen any evidence for this myself. You kind of get lumped into that category of paranoid schizophrenic, where it's all in your imagination, man. Just calm down. So I think that sort of leans itself to the idea that the conspiracy theorists are all just these crazy, delusional psychopaths, right? Yeah,
yeah. And who, you know, from my study of history, the term conspiracy theory got coined by a 3-letter alphabet agency, right? Which one it was for sure, who knows? But, you know, that they're the ones who tied it into schizophrenics, right? That's when the popular movies come out, and anybody that you ever seen in theater and all that jazz that's portrayed as the theorists, they look like wackos, right? They're the nutcase, they're the person that's hiding out.
Oh yeah,
right. So they were demonized, right? But the general conspiracies that, you know, or let's say the Gulf of Tonkin, right? And that was put your mind in that time frame. What was that, 1940s ish, or was that earlier than the 40s? Or
that was the 60s.
Was it 60s? Okay, I was thinking of something else.
That was Vietnam.
Yeah. That's what got us into Vietnam. Thank you very much. I brain farted there.
Mm-hmm.
But that was 100% proven at this point, right? That
50 years later.
True, exactly.
But you know, imagine you're me, you know, say 20 years ago, okay? And you are seeing all these movies and you're, you know, about the conspiracies theorist guy who's crazy as hell, and he's this, you know, basement dwelling lunatic, right? And so you have that idea in your head. I'm talking about myself. And then so you kind of brush these things aside. You hear about things and this and that. But generally you trust the government. You know, obviously they're not being 100% with you, but generally they're okay. They're not trying to hurt you. They're not trying to do bad things. They're just, you know, they're just normal people like you and me. And then you see an interview with Jesse the Body Ventura, right? When he was right before he was going for governorship, I think, of Minnesota. And he was talking about the Gulf of Tonkin, because he was in Vietnam. He was the Special Forces. He was a Navy SEAL in Vietnam. And so he was talking about the Gulf of Tonkin and how it was an inside job. And it was 100% proven to be an inside job 50 years later, right? He said, you know, he wrote a book, and I think he was promoting the book is why he was doing the interview.
Okay.
And so you're me watching this. I say, is that true? So I look it up, and of course it is, that the Gulf of Tonkin was a false flag operation. You know, he was trying to wake people up to that term as well, false flag. And now I'm starting to question more and more things, right? I'm starting to say, well, okay, if they're willing to do that, what else are they willing to do, right? So I start looking up other things, and I'm like, okay, my trust is dwindling now. It's being eroded by the information I'm being presented with of my own government, right?
And then 20 years ago, you're what? 20, you know, either your mid-20s to mid-30s.
Like 23.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm a young man, I'm trying to figure
Yeah.
things out. I'm just going through the world. Most of my life is revolved around basketball and chicks and drugs and doing my part-time
Rules.
job to pay the rent.
Right. Rules that are based in society that you followed, essentially, right? Why? Because everybody was supposed to be following the same set of rules. Whoever violated the rules got in trouble. And then all of a sudden you're presented with this, wait a minute, somebody stepped outside of the rules. Nobody got in trouble scenario. So
Exactly.
keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, and you keep looking down this rabbit hole, and it gets deeper and deeper and wider. It has little. I almost look at it now, the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories, like an anthill. It has so many offshoots and little pockets all along the way. It's almost. You get in there and you just get lost forever. How are you going to get out? And it really it becomes. And of course, anthills are dark. There's no lighting, so it's murky, it's dark. You're kind of feeling your way through. And that analogy, I think, is fairly accurate when you start delving into this stuff for the first time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. 100. Well, yeah, there's like a line in a song I'd made at one point is like, you gotta, down these dark, desolate halls, we walk with the blind. Every turn seems to take us back to the starting line. And at one point is like, look, in order to get past all this, you've got to rip these stitches out one at a time in order to see the actual light that's in front of you, or you're just going to be led by the blind, essentially, right? And because it's so dark,
you missed.
What?
You missed an opportunity there. It could have been perpetually blind. Oh, man.
Oh, well, yeah, yeah. But when that's the problem with like getting the stigma of the psychopath or the schizophrenic attached to you when you're messing with anything entering in the conspiracy zone, right? Because you could follow the wrong rabbit hole, like you're saying, that it's in dark anthill with offshoots. Not every single one of them. Be honest with you, a large part, there's only like an entry and an exit, so you've only got one way in or out. Once you're in there, everything potentially gets you coming right back to where you started at, because it's just like an endless loop of where the hell am I at? What's going on? So, and I can see people getting crazy doing that stuff, spouting out the wrong shit all day long.
Yeah. You can go a little bit too far. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You can get in there and get confused and really get lost and go down the wrong path, and you end up somewhere that just doesn't make any sense to anybody because it's nonsense. You can get there. You can get to the point where it just doesn't make sense anymore.
In today's time frame too, though, it's so easy to attach or see multiple things. Why? Because we have so much information at our fingertips at any given point in time that we wake up and do things, right? But now, again, for the past sake of the past, present, and future, I'm not saying we're sticking to it, but to wrap it up to that is think of being back in the 60s. We didn't have the internet, you know what I'm saying? And then take it a step further, go back to the 30s, because shit was going on there too. 30s led into the 40s, 40s led into World War II, the 30s had World War I. Are all of these things, potential inside jobs, people attempting to warn us, and we don't have that information. Why? Because they were labeled the schizo, so there's no reason to even document the potential idea that somebody may have had that got us into World War I, right? That shit got buried, disappeared, and gone. But today, there's so much documentation going on.
I am aware of basically 1% of the information about World War I. The only thing I'm aware of is that that's when shell shock was coined as a medical thing.
Yeah.
For the soldiers.
Well, World War
other than that,
I
have no warfare. Idea.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm aware of the basics, but yeah, no idea about the politics of it, why it even kicked off in the first place, or how we got involved. No clue.
And I have full transparency, the same here on my end. But I know if with just what happens today in society, and the only reason it's more prevalent today is because we have so many digital recording devices, you know what I'm saying? And they're all linked together essentially on the World Wide Web.
Check out your digital recording device, and we'll be back with you after the break. Smooth Brain Radio will be right back after these messages from our sponsors. And you'd hear something right now if we had any. Welcome back to Smooth Brain Radio, ironing out your brain one wrinkle at a time.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. How you doing? So today's topic is conspiracies. The actual title is going to be Conspiracies, Unique View on Things, or are they just crazy people? My personal opinion,
You're breaking up.
Oh, that could be a Discord thing, so don't worry about that. My personal take on it is because I consider myself a theorist, right? I don't believe everything that's presented to me. I think logically. If you don't think logically, I think, personally, I think there's something wrong with you. You got to really pay attention to the world around you. So, again, I'm going to bring it, and I'm going to wait. Anyways, so if you're sitting in one of these anthills, right, that you'd mentioned before, and you're just stuck inside one of the corners, right? You went down a rabbit hole, say you think you're in a simulation. So, is that
17 minutes?
Yep. And that's what I was waiting for. Is there any hope for that particular person? Because most theorists, they're dead set, locked into their train of thought. You know what I'm saying? It's very difficult for them to see outside of the box, if you will. Like, you don't think so. And you and I have had conversations about things, right? Just on the side. And I know you attempt to convince me that it's not a real thing. You know what I'm saying? And me doing the vice versa. So,
yeah,
the theorists.
Well, I think.
Go ahead.
I think really the ability to keep an open mind when you have a conviction towards something as well, and you keep an open mind to other alternate possibilities, is the failure of that is a key flaw of our human brains. I think it's much easier to have this worldview created. You create your worldview every day of your life. It builds up and compounds and adds on, and it continues to grow and refine itself over years and years and years of thinking about things and being exposed to that information we talked about.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you can't keep an open mind, and I look at it as like a scientific mind, if you can't keep a scientific outlook towards the world, then you're going to fail to see some of the cracks maybe that could point you in a different direction so you don't get stuck there. Okay. And I think maybe the people that do get stuck where, they just start losing it a little bit, that might be possibly why, is they just don't have the capability at that point
to break free from the chain that they've locked themselves to.
Right. Or to see alternate possibilities and look at them legitimately instead of just dismissing them outright because they don't fit into their particular idea or worldview.
Okay. I don't have no argument against that, because that right there reminds me of your anthill analogy again. It's just another branch that, somebody could take, and that potential branch could be the out branch, if you will, or the in branch again, So long as you're not in the rabbit hole, most people are considered quote unquote sane, right? Anybody that's ever goes into the rabbit hole, the sane people think of them as crazies, if I'm not mistaken, or they're inferior, less than, essentially, right? Because they don't have as much smarts as quote unquote the sane person. I don't know. It's just a ramble there. Sorry.
There is a look down upon. There is, because I remember, like I said, when I first started getting exposed to some of this stuff, before then, I did kind of look down upon somebody with an extreme theory about, conspiracy theory or whatever as, that's just kind of crazy.
It's crazy.
And you look down upon somebody like that. You do, it's just, that's just your nature.
And what I like about, because personally I get a kick out of people looking at me like that. Like, really? You really think that? Well, absolutely. Because then I can sit down and have, an hour-long conversation of why we're in a simulation. So, but that being said, the whole loop. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say there was a comic that I saw. I don't remember his name because I didn't look anything up. But there's a comic that I saw. His little bit was on conspiracies. And he was like, I don't really understand people that don't get into conspiracy theories at all. Like not at all. Like, you don't have any? You think the government's just batting 1,000 out here? Right. Telling you the whole truth, the 100% of the truth all the time? It's like, the government is responsible for hundreds of millions of people. I am responsible for one son. He says, I lie to that boy all the damn time. So that just, that I always thought that was a good point.
Yeah, that is. But it's not so. Are they really, like a parent lying to a child? Is it really a lie, or is it a potential safety measure, or not an acknowledgement? That's where my brain went to instantly with that. But that's beside the point.
Well, it's the same mindset, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
The government lying to the population is the same mindset as the parent lying to the child to protect them from an uncomfortable or a damaging truth where maybe the child would think poorly of their parent if they knew something about them, so they lie about it.
Yeah.
The same thing with the government. If they have told the truth about the Gulf and, hey, we're just going to blow our own ship up here to get us into this war zone so we can make profits and sell guns to both sides and, and kill some yellow people. We probably would have thought poorly. Right.
No,
we would have thought poorly of our government, right? So they're lying to protect both the child from an uncomfortable truth and themselves from the child knowing an uncomfortable truth about them. So I think it's the same mindset either way.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, obviously the totality of it as far as objectives are totally different from the government to a parent, I would think. I mean, it's the same mindset of the protection or the safety or whatever the case may be, but like the government doesn't care about any one of us. Pure and simple. We're just a pawn on the table somewhere to be used, and once you get inside there, you're an actual chess piece. You know what I'm saying? So until then, we're just the ants in the hill, if you will. So that's
crawling around the anthill.
Yeah, exactly.
Looking for a way out.
But when it comes to like conspiracies, what is the one that brought you full fledged? Like, all right, I just can't believe
I've got
anything
three
that they say. Okay.
I've got 3 that I hang on to that I'm like, there's no way anybody's going to convince me this is not for real.
Okay.
The other ones that I'm aware of, I'm willing to listen, but there's 3 of them that I am 100. I'm the guy who closes his mind to any other possibility for these 3.
Okay.
The first one is JFK assassination.
Yeah.
I'm 100% down with the fact that, well, I'm not going to say the fact that. I'm 100% down with the idea that he was killed by the CIA.
Okay.
Because he was going to go back to the gold and silver standard. He was going to, put the power back in the U.S. Treasury's hands and take it away from the Federal Reserve for the currency. He was days away from signing that into action, and then he dies. The second one is September the 11th, 2001, 9/11.
Yep.
Nobody's going to tell me that it was not an inside job for many reasons. Well, the main reason is they were running exercises for this exact scenario weeks before this happened.
Yeah.
The mere days before this happened, for weeks.
Yep.
And they
I
didn't
can't
respond at
disagree
all
there either.
when it did happen.
Right.
Okay, they didn't scuttle any fighters. They didn't do shit to stop it. They knew this was going to happen. They planned for it, and when it did happen, they did nothing.
Yeah.
Try to tell me it's not an inside job. Just, I beg you, try. Not you as in you, but anybody.
Right.
Right?
I know what you're
And then-
referencing.
And the third one is one that I get looked at like I've got 3 alien heads on top of my neck, is that you don't need a driver's license to drive your car, as long as you're
if
not doing
a commercial
commerce.
vehicle. Yeah, you can't be a commercial vehicle.
So those are my 3 that
Okay.
my 3 conspiracies that I'm 100% on, and there's no doubt in my mind.
Well,
And that's when 9/11 really was the
Shook
linchpin
you.
for me, to answer your question. Was like, okay, Gulf of Tonkin, now 9/11,
Yeah.
these people are insane, and they don't give a damn about any American citizen. All they care
you're the
about
ant in the hill.
is making their money and going to war to make more money. That's it.
Yeah.
So
That's when
they'll do anything to get that.
I 100% agree with you on that one. That was my, shake me to my core foundations that, wait a minute, the rules aren't the same for everyone. So, and then when Clinton got out of his BJ, bullshit. So right then and there, I knew 100% that the government is either all in one, like a uniparty scenario, or he who has power plays, the other side, so to speak. So, and it's just like right
Well,
away.
even down here in pleb land where we live, it's different for people with money. Because let's say, if a punishment is, if the punishment for a crime is a monetary fine, then it's only a punishment for the poor. It's not a
100%.
punishment for the rich. So there's that power play still being played out at the lowest levels of society, where the plebeians live, like you and me, right?
Yeah.
We go about our daily lives, we do our things. We got to follow these rules, because if we don't, we get monetary fines, or worse, of course. But a guy with a Ferrari, making $1 million a year salary somewhere as a CEO, drives 200 mile an hour on the interstate, gets pulled over, he gets a ticket. Who cares? He's just going to pay it and do it again next week.
Right. 100%. Yeah, that's hilarious. I mean, to bring like a personal side to that, I 100% live through that for a large portion of time. So that's the people with money, the power position person always has leverage one way or another. There's no getting around that. So are the talking heads that are around that person, aka the theorists, if you will, that warn you of them, are they the crazy one? Most of the time when it's spoken out or said, again, they get looked at like, are you absolutely crazy? What the hell are you talking about? No way. It's just like, put 2 and 2 together
think about
here.
Julian
There's 2
Assange.
dots. Oh yeah.
Think about Julian Assange. Whistleblowers across the board, even in corporate whistleblowers, their careers are over, right? They're never going to get hired by another similar corporation, or any corporation really,
Right.
because
dependent on their
they
notoriety.
spoke out. Yeah, well, I mean, they spoke out and gave some secrets away that they were trying to hide, and now their careers in the gutter because they
Deemed
spoke the truth
untrustworthy.
about something. Yeah, exactly.
And that's
Yeah,
a sad
they're deemed
thing.
untrustworthy for telling the truth about something they wanted to hide,
Right.
and it's a ridiculous place to be. If you're that guy and you're like, why am I the bad guy here? I'm trying to tell you about something really bad that's going on.
Some bad shit happening
you're
over here.
Yeah, bad shit's going on over here. I'm trying to tell you about it, and you're telling me I'm the bad guy. What's wrong with you?
Right. And oh man, to have to go through that on a, I'm sure everybody has gone through that some way, shape, or form in the place that they work. Whether you're the fry cook at McDonald's and the manager's bullshitting you or whatever's going on, there's little microchasms. So everything's a conspiracy.
But we're going to find out more about that after this. Smooth Brain Radio will be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
The easiest and most free way to show your support for the show is to just keep an eye out on social media and push all the buttons there. You got your likes, you got your shares, you got your retweets, all that. And that will help us tremendously. On top of that, you have 2 ways to join. Join with a one-time payment to get the SBR role in Discord, or for just $1 more. You can subscribe monthly for insider access, like the ability to influence topics, listen live during a recording session, and get access to special stuff nobody else will hear. So join the Discord and become a bonobo.
Welcome back to Smooth Brain Radio, ironing out your brain one wrinkle at a time.
Yep. We're in the land of the white rabbit, if you will.
Man.
So that movie itself is why I have the train of thought, obviously, of simulation crap. But even then, before that happened, like, watching movies and getting my pop culture, ingest, if you will, as the MK Ultra things I started finding on the interwebs started, coming through and altering my frame of view on that. I've seen layers of control, just like complete control mechanisms as all they are. Like the most recent thing that I've kind of come across are like SSRIs that people are taking, antidepressants, things like that. Are they part of that cocktail that the CIA was using when they were doing LSD and all that jazz? If you break down the chemical compound of LSD, which, makes you really subjective to the world. I mean, hell, I've seen a Smurf climb out of my dashboard, walk around my car, flip me off, and then crawl back in it with 9 people in a Plymouth Horizon. So I'm telling you, man, that shit can really mess with your brain. And to be
absolutely.
taking these things and being influenced by the television, the internet, the TikToks, the Snapchats, you name all of the gadgets that you get your info from. And is that just a whole complete layer of control? And if it is, who's controlling it, right? And that's where my brain starts connecting to, governments and all that jazz, big monopolies. Facebook is essentially a piece of the government. So was Twitter at one point. Hell, it could be currently, for all we know, because Musk is the richest person in the world, right? But like you said, with power, with money comes power, essentially. I mean, so...
Yeah.
There's this big dynamic of conflict
he
going
recently, on. He recently tweeted something about, and I'd have to find it again, but it caught my attention because I was just scrolling through, and I don't do it often, but it just kind of caught my eye, where he was talking about where he refused some kind of censorship for X, aka Twitter. Mm-hmm. And there was some aggressive monetary fine from the government linked to this if you didn't follow along what they wanted you to censor. So he, basically he was just like, okay, bring it. Send me the check, send me the bill, I'll send you the check. Who cares?
Yeah.
That was his outlook because he has so much damn money. I mean, who cares, right? I'm going to do whatever I want. But, that just tells you, that gives you a glimpse, though, of the government reaching their grubby little fingers into everything, right? They're pushing for certain things not to be shown on social media.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, I mean, Twitter 1.0 with Jack Dorsey was 100% a CIA, FBI playhouse. It's proven in Twitter Files 1.0 at this point. You know what I'm saying? They 100% had communications with the executives in Twitter to silence people, ban people, and remove content from the world's platform. Because if you ask me, it's easier to jump on Twitter than it is on Facebook, right? And just get something out there really quick for masses to potentially see. It's essentially, if I'm not mistaken, the way the back end, I know it's a database, but at this point, I'm assuming it's got to be a blockchain at the, it's a linear, ledger of the world's conversations. And the reason I say that is because I think Twitter is in more countries than it is than Facebook. I could be wrong. I don't know for sure, but I think it is, or it used to be before X bucked like Brazil or whoever it was and other places like that. So, but every government.
I definitely don't know the
paw into
logistics there. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you could just research
And
Twitter 1.0 to get the information I'm referencing.
Well, and you think about censorship, you think about communist China as the biggest censorship government on the planet right now. But I think really that would be wrong.
You just pulled a rabbit out of a hat for me. Why is that? Why would that be wrong?
Yeah. Well, I think the U.S. government would probably be the greatest censorship government currently, just because they have their hands in everything.
Yeah,
they're across the entire world.
Yeah,
right?
100%. Yes.
They can reach into Argentina and censor shit. They can reach into France and Germany and Britain and Scotland and most of the world. Well, they can reach their paws into and exert their influence. In other words.
Yeah. Well, at least on the EU side of things, I don't think that. I mean, this is a reference to the 9/11 and the most recent news that I'd seen that the United Emirates of Saudi Arabia, or I think that's the UAE, I think is what it's called, however it is, but Saudi Arabia had something to do with 9/11, right? If I'm not mistaken, it was like weeks ago. I have to pull it up. I'll link it in the show notes so that way I have at least a trail for somebody to look at. I bookmarked it. So, but
you can go down your own rabbit hole.
Exactly.
Yes.
Visit the land of the lost, if you will. But should have lost my train of thought there. What I was getting ready to say though, when you mentioned China, like, do you remember the Chinese ghost cities, ghost towns, or whatever that case may be? I can't remember what they're 100% called, but just complete.
Not really, no.
All right, well, complete massive cities, right? Just like everything that LA has, and just scattered blocks of Chinese areas, large amounts of construction, and zero people living in them, right? I mean, for 10 years, these things have been built ready for people to populate. Nobody lives in them. And if they do live in them, they're very few at the time that the videos came out that I had gotten in that rabbit hole. So, but China is, right, but China's security, right? They're the Great Firewall of China, if you've ever heard of that. That's potential conspiracy or not, but...
Oh, yeah.
So they control everything 100%, far greater than like the United States does or anybody else. If you ask my opinion, I think that it is.
North Korea is like that to the farthest extreme as well. I was watching a documentary about some French tourists who got into North Korea to do a little tour, and they would have entire villages of loyalists living there, people that are loyal to the Kim family, who would just be a front to show tourists how great their civilization is and all this and that. And they went through, this big war museum where every piece of information was incorrect.
Oh, really?
Every single bit was a lie, to try to convince the tourists that they were, in fact, the good guys in this scenario. And the Korean conflict would be what I'm referencing. Yeah. And the United States, the Americans, are the evil invaders who only want to just murder every North Korean alive. you know. So it's basically they flipped the script entirely, and they present this to people who visit their country as, you know, and so
Fact.
the control aspect there, the I guess the censorship aspect there is off the charts,
Yeah.
but I think their reach is small, and I think that's why I would still say the U.S. is probably the biggest censored
Oh,
government,
absolutely.
because their reach is huge. It's just global at this point.
Absolutely. I mean,
You know,
we've got
and you
airplanes
know-
disappearing, so.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that in our next segment, and just
Okay.
dedicate a whole segment to this. Is I want to go back to all the way back to Bob Lazar with this.
I gotcha. Okay.
And link all this stuff together a little bit. But
But the control mechanism,
Yeah, I mean,
you see the whole control mechanism as a theorist, right? I mean, it's not,
absolutely,
you're just blind to any of it. Like, you know, you don't think that, okay, yeah, the firewall of China stops a lot of that stuff. And that's probably the worst kind of control, like censorship. I mean, I'm speaking as a pleb here, okay, just so you know. Oh, no, the only thing that I've ever heard is they got some sort of firewall and they keep things separate. But other than that, the world is free. Everybody's free, blah, blah, blah. You can do whatever you want. You're not blind
freedom
to
of
any that.
speech. Freedom of speech is kind of a joke, you know, and one of those things, one of these myths of America, I think, that people really need to figure out, because
Yeah.
you can say whatever you want, but there will be consequences if you say the wrong thing about the wrong people.
Yep, 100%.
And you know, I'm not just talking about, you know, you mouth off to somebody at Walmart and they sock you in the mouth. You know, we're talking about you're going to a federal prison if you say the wrong thing about the wrong person.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's to that point, you know. So your freedom of speech is probably the biggest myth in American society that one of the biggest myths of American society. And one of the others would be this whole UFO thing. And we're leading up on a break here pretty soon, about, you know,
2-3
4
minutes.
minutes. But I want to kind of lean into it a little bit. Just
Okay,
lean a
that's
little
fine.
bit into it, because
Are little green men real?
Really?
I think you're crazy. No, just kidding.
well, so I'm just going to preface this and say that alongside what I'm about to say next, I do believe that, you know, there are in the universe, probably in our galaxy, intelligent extraterrestrial life,
Yeah.
you know, similar to us, or more advanced or less advanced, whatever the case may be. I'm certain that that's out there. Mathematically, it has to be out there somewhere.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm also going to, in the same breath, say I don't think they've ever come here yet.
Yeah, we're an anthill. We're not even an anthill. I
The
don't think.
reason is, and I thought that, you know, I bought into the whole, okay, aliens have visited us and they've kept tabs and all this stuff for, you know, decades now. But the recent thing with the plane disappearing, you know, the flight number and all that stuff, so I'll let you mention that.
MH370.
Right. That gave me a different perspective entirely,
Interesting.
because we go back, you know, to the Roswell incidents and the Bob Lazar interviews specifically,
Yeah.
where
Those are
he's
the first
talking
ones.
about the technology involved in these craft that, you know, they're trying to revert. He's saying we're trying to reverse engineer this. We found living beings and all this and that. I want to kind of push that to the side, make it a sub note here. I think the technology that he's describing is identical in many ways. Maybe not perfectly identical, but in many ways very similar, at least, to the orbs that were around that plane.
Yeah.
Now, what they did at the end to make it bamf out of existence like the Nightcrawler, I don't know. That's new. right? That's brand fucking new. But up until that point, they behaved just like your traditional extraterrestrial UFO idea.
Yeah, 100%. I can't disagree with that in any way, shape, or form. And the way that Lazar described things back in the day, it was like, there's many, many different interviews, but if I recall one of them, he had like given like details of specifics of like how he thought that they were working and such, like the mechanics behind things. So I don't remember for sure what it was. Yeah, Element 113 is what it was.
Yeah, something like that. I'm struggling with the number, but Element something or other. Yeah. He was talking about was the key to the mechanism behind. Yeah, this is the key behind their propulsion. But we'll figure that out here in a minute. Smooth Brain Radio will be right back after these messages from our sponsors. And you'd hear something right now if we had any. Welcome back to Smooth Brain Radio, ironing out your brain one wrinkle at a time.
And we're back. So this one we're going to kind of push. We're going to push the MH370, right? So I want to start off first before I let you go onto your dive here with like the conversations we've had in the Discords and all that jazz, right? By no means do I bash anybody's opinion on what they think, right? They can think however they want to about anything. Like I said before, and we say it's a running joke in the Discord, I'm the nutso freak that lives in a simulation, essentially. So I cannot disagree with your point of views. So that said, I am on the firm belief because of how the predictions alone that I have documented in songs and things like that, that are at this point, 10 years down the road, 100% true. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? So it's not clairvoyance or anything like that. It was logical thinking of a subject and writing it down. You know what I'm saying? So when aerospace engineers talk to me and say X, Y, and Z, I take it to heart. Why? Because they know something I know dick all about, right? So the facts of the matter, though, are the conspiracy debunkers and the theorists are sometimes one and the same tool, meaning they're the three-letter alphabet agency trying to promote and distract, if you will. And then there's the legitimate, we've got to hide something because something got the fuck out. And I think that's what's happening right now with the MH370 and Ashton Forbes, right? So he is the key person that really got me involved into it. So, and I think that's who I pushed you to. I don't know where you've gone from since then, right? But I continue to go to Ashton. And I don't go outside of that because he seems legit to me. But now that in itself could be part of the ops on me. You know what I'm saying? So I could be down the dark anthill that has no end at this point. So
you're saying he could be the plant?
Yes, yes, 100%.
To distract people from, thinking about what this really could be.
Correct.
So he's okay. So let's start there. So what is he directing you towards? A way of thinking about this, that it's a military operation.
Yeah.
So that's his purpose here.
Yep.
This is a military operation that is being conducted and observed and recorded by military craft, and this is what they can do now. So they're testing technology.
That's right. And then the other piece of that story, though, are scientists.
Yeah.
You got to remember to involve the people that are on that airplane as well. So that was one layer of things I omitted all the time until here in a recent argument. So sorry, I didn't mean to derail you.
No, you're fine. I mean, this is a discussion after all. If I could speak properly, that'd be great. But so, you're thinking along the lines of he could be a plant. It's possible. There's no reason to think that it's impossible. So he could be directing our minds and our way of thinking towards a certain way where this is a terrestrial technology, where it's really an extraterrestrial technology. That could be.
Yeah. Yeah.
That could be possible.
100%. Yep. And it
But
could be
the
the blinding of people. That's what again, the human element of omitting something out of the equation. Sorry, I did it again. My apologies.
Yeah, and well, with omission, you're not exactly lying, but you're just leaving something out that's critical to understanding the whole big picture.
And
so
I believe
that
Ashton,
could be going
by the
on
way.
as well.
So just got to get that out there.
Okay.
I believe that this happened. So.
Okay. Well, I believe that it happened, but yeah, I mean, the questions are there. Is this terrestrial? Is this extraterrestrial? What really is the purpose here? Was the military drone recording this by accident? It just happened to be around?
Oh.
Was it all a coincidence? Or was this an observed event that was planned? So, but going back to Lazar, back in the 70s when he was talking about this stuff, so a little background, if you're not familiar with who Bob Lazar is, he claims to have been hired by the U.S. Air Force as a scientist in propulsion to work not at Area 51, but at one of their offshoot locations underground. And he claims that he was on one team of many who worked on reverse engineering alien spacecraft propulsion. So what he was describing was an anti-gravity system where think of it like, instead of the traditional propulsion that we are aware of in our aircraft, where, an engine is shooting out energy behind it to propel it forward. In essence, the anti-gravity propulsion of these craft would have three little sensors going on, three little emitters, and they would be basically pulling the craft forward by creating a distortion in gravity in front or whichever direction they wanted to go.
Yeah, it's like a gravity
and they would
well
basically
in a roller coaster.
allow them. Yeah, so allow them to kind of. He described it himself, and it is rolling downhill. So it allows the craft to just move smoothly in this way. And he claimed that since the gravitational field around the Earth is kind of distorted, depending on where you're at, you kind of get this weeble wobble effect from him sometimes. But element 113 or whatever it was the key to making this function, where they would have these little triangular plates made up of element whatever it was, and when you expose this element to radiation, it creates this anti-gravity field. Hey, be quiet.
We're doing a recording, doggo. Time to be silent. That was a conspiracy to knock us off track.
Yeah, Snoop's getting interested now. He's getting interested, but so what he's describing when in the CG that they were showing during this interview and his diagrams and drawings and things, it just clicked in my brain. I was watching this yesterday, one of his interviews, just to kind of prep for this show, and I was like, that's exactly what these orbs are doing.
Yeah.
You see where they're wanting to move to, there's like a little distortion in front of where they're going.
Yep.
And
you're talking about the black tunneling effect that's there, right?
Yeah. And so they're behaving just like what he's describing these craft can do, and the functionality of this technology. So this is in the 60s, this reverse engineering was going on, right?
Right.
So about the 50s and 60s. And continuously, you have to understand, he said, if they couldn't figure something out, they'd put it on a shelf, wait 10 years, pull it back out, see where the technology is today, and see if they can figure it out now.
Yeah.
If they can't, they put it on the shelf, wait 10 years, pull it off, wash, rinse, repeat. So at this point, 2024, have they figured it out?
Well,
have they mastered this technology?
to me, like you said, you watched this video to prep. In all actuality, when I've been watching Transformers. I put it on, the loop on Plex, and Megatron is a complete reverse engineering of all of our technology in that movie, right? So that's what Bob Lazar essentially is in folklore at this point in time, because that's a 1-to-1 of that whole scenario of, the military telling, some kid, hey, we've got an NBE-1 up here and we've reversed all this technology, and it's been buried in the hillside since the like 35 or 30, 1935, I think is when they said that it crash landed, right? So that is just, it's, as you were speaking, that's what rolled into my head, and I was just like, it's a scenario that gets pushed out, pure and simple, and is it by design? So that's just kind of popped into my head.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to derail you again, but I just kind of found that interesting that was a dot getting connected, people, real time.
Well, in terms of Ashton Forbes, is he a plant? Like that question was presented a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
That possibility was explored very lightly, admittedly.
Or is he
by
the
us.
movie, or is he the director of the movie, essentially, right? Going off of the knowledge that he's come across, because that came from somewhere. Is what I'm getting at here.
So here's my epic question to you, okay? Because I've kind of noticed I've controlled this conversation. I don't want to do that, but
It's all right.
Was Bob Lazar a plant to
We'll see.
convince people that it's an extraterrestrial technology that they're reverse engineering and they don't know how it works, instead of this is a technology that the military is actively developing and it's a terrestrial thing. There's no aliens that we recovered and all this and that. So what's the real story?
Well, so you did a fantastic job of laying out the past, and then in the iterations, if you will, of put it back up on the shelf and bring it back out 10 years later scenario. Up until Ashton, you can't really say definitely that we learned some sort of foreign technology, if you will, right? Whether it's extraterrestrial or not, at this point, it's still debate for me, because it could be time travel, it could be interdimensional, doesn't necessarily have to be, little green men, essentially. Do I believe that the galaxy and the universe are filled with life? Absolutely. I mean, you got to be a moron if you don't think that. It's inevitable. Okay. So the plant, I personally would have said up until Ashton that he's 100% possible a plant. But because of the way that the 10-year gap, like you were saying, shelving of things, 10 years later, at this point, it's 20 years later, maybe 30 almost, right?
Oh, it's way more than that now. Okay. We're talking about from the 50s to now.
But Bob Lazar didn't.
Is when
Lazar was in the 80s, though, wasn't he? 80s, 90s?
That's when he was talking about it, but he was working there back in the 50s.
Right. So, and I'm just referencing what he described personally, the way he described things. You physically seen it in the Forbes videos, is what I'm trying to get at here. So, yes, up until Ashton Forbes, I thought he could possibly be a plant or a control mechanism. Once Forbes showed the videos and started getting the attention, it's unequivocal that he was telling the truth. I'm referencing Lazar at this point. I don't no longer think that he was a potential plant. That dot is 100% connected, and the next line is Forbes. Pure and simple. In my book of
here's another
rabbits.
name. We've only got a couple minutes, but here's another name for you. Stephen Greer. Have you heard of this guy?
Yes, I have. Very intelligent person.
So what do you think about him?
His talking.
He's right in line with this whole storyline of Lazar, Stephen Greer, and then Ashton Forbes today.
So I've watched quite a few things, but not a lot. The things that I have watched, he goes to, like, he had this spiritual thing that he had done here recently, if I'm not mistaken, that
Yeah.
that made me question.
That put me
right?
off
Like,
of him pretty hard. That put me off
exactly.
of him pretty hard, to be honest.
But up until that point, I was locked in. You know what I'm saying? I was engaged, at least wanting to find out more.
Yeah.
I hit that point, and I was just like, ooh, hold on a second. Now you're starting to sound like the Branch Davidian bullshit over here. So, you know, look, step back.
He's starting
and
to sound like the basement dweller guy. His hair's all
Exactly.
crazy, and his eyes are crossed. His eyes are crossed, and he can't see straight. And
But no matter
it's
what,
getting
he
a little
did
bit bizarre for
fantastic
him.
work exposing
Yeah.
it at a governmental level. He's the reason we
And he
had
did a-
any
he
of
did a
the
congressional-
stuff going on. You know?
He sat in front of Congress one time and laid this out for an hour.
Yep.
Them.
And then they've here recently,
And-
we're talking the last 6 years, the government has been doing, you know, congressional testimonies for people like that, coming forward and getting it on record that
Yeah.
this is a real
yeah.
thing.
The
Now-
two Air Force pilots
Yeah.
that went in there. Yeah.
So now the question remains at this point, are these all crazy people, or are they telling the fucking truth and people are just refusing to see beyond the veil?
Join us next time for more Smooth Brain Radio. And don't forget, keep that one brain cell healthy until then. It ain't got no gas in it.